Good evening, distinguished leader, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Rawi, my extremely hard-working colleagues in the cabinet, the Honourable Minister Stuart Young and the Honourable Minister Ayanna Webster Roy. Folks, you may not know this. I actually don't think that Stuart Young sleeps. I'm convinced of that. And I don't think that you've had a chance to see the full effect of that dedication just yet, but hold on. His Worship the Mayor, Alderman Martinez, honourable ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, to the listening Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and to the wider world that is tuning into us. Trinidad and Tobago is crying out. Trinidad and Tobago is asking its leaders in every sector, be it the government, the opposition, heads of industry. Trinidad and Tobago is asking its leaders for solutions. Solutions to problems that have existed for a while, for problems that have become mundane in the sense that people just press on after tragedies are brought to the front and to the surface. It's almost as if there is a sense of resurgence for direction and for analysis of issues. You see, one of the casualties of COVID this year has been the carnival buzz. And if ever one positive effect from the lack of carnival has come about this year, is that people are focused on issues. And instead of turning up at events to celebrate, which is good for the soul and spirit, we are now at events where issues are live in our country. And I have prayed for a very long time for Trinidad to fall into the analysis of issues, because then we can prosper. The Honourable Prime Minister has led a cabinet which has been hard at work. Good news doesn't necessarily sell, but that work has been invested into development of one of the major issues on the table now, which is the reform of the criminal justice system. And we say that expression glibly, the criminal justice system. People ask for the system to be fixed and the system to be paid attention to. But what is that? You see, the system, quite simply put, is the place where justice happens, the manner in which you get to justice, the manner in which an acquittal happens or a conviction happens. It involves people, a judge, a prosecutor, a defense attorney, the person accused, the victim, the people to carry you to and from court. It involves a place, the courtroom. It involves a process, because the process includes the rules. And then there's an outcome. And tonight, for me, the issue as one of the people given responsibility to hold a piece of the line by the Honourable Prime Minister's direction, as one of the people who people are reaching out to say what's going on, I can say that the issue is about changing the rules. You see, I can confidently stand here tonight and tell you, in terms of the place where we deliver justice, the courts, that we have developed over the last 5 years, a children's court, a family court, a criminal division, a civil division. Specialist places to treat with children's issues, because the best way to stop a hardback criminal is to make sure that a child who is in conflict with the law comes out of conflict in the law by going into a children's court. And tonight I can confidently stand and tell you that we have created a massive set of improvement in the prosecution department, delivering the Port of Spain office for the DPP, the Tobago office for the DPP, the San Fernando office being filled out, the staff being added, adding in Trinidad and Tobago policemen as prosecutors. I can tell you that we have delivered on the system tools to quicken justice by removing motor vehicle and road traffic offenses, by removing marijuana offenses, by soon abolishing preliminary inquiries. And what does that mean? It means the case load in the court gets smaller. Down from 146,000 cases to 8,500 cases. So 43 magistrates can pay attention to serious matters. I can tell you that we have improved the system by moving the number of judges from 36 in the High Court to 64 in legislation, 12 in the Court of Appeal to 15, from 2 masters to case manage the case to see if you're ready to 25. I can tell you that we have introduced into that system the ability for an accused to go and find out what the maximum sentence he will be exposed to is. We've introduced judge-only trials. We have introduced criminal proceedings rules. We have introduced a registrar in the magistrates' court. We have removed the backlog of transcripts. And what we have now, for example, in judge-only trials, in one actual case, a person waiting 15 years for a trial, in 12 minutes before Madam Justice Lisa Ramsumer-Hines, the trial was over and the verdict was given. I can tell you today that murder charges are being dealt with by a judge only. But all of that, people don't consider to be relevant. I can tell you that with the opening of Tower D courts at the waterfront, that we will have added in this year 129 new courtrooms where justice can happen. I can tell you that we opened cameras and turned them on at the prisons, and in 3 months of the prisons cameras working, 15,000 cases were heard from the prisons. But does that make you feel better? Is that what people are looking forward to for their leaders to talk about? Read the placards. Listen to the voices. They talk about changing the rules on bail, on evidence, on sexual offenses, on murder. Isn't that what they're talking about? Isn't that what the cry for justice is? Protect our women and our vulnerable. Respect your ladies, your children, your young men. Isn't that what Trinidad and Tobago is talking about? So we, in our each respective parts, Minister Young, Minister Webster Roy, the Honorable Prime Minister, each of us, the voices in Parliament, the powerful voice of Keith Scotland, the member for Port of Spain South, as a successful lawyer, we, taking our turn at the wheel, stand up and say, let's change the rules. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, in the issues in Trinidad and Tobago, I want to join the chorus of cries on issues. A parliamentarian's job and privilege, according to the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, is to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Trinidad and Tobago. Section 53, the supreme law of the land. Our job is to go to the Parliament and pass laws to protect our citizens. Yes, we must have compassion. Yes, we must join our brothers and sisters in empathy. And I want to tell my brother Stuart Young, I heard him loud and clear in his opening rededicate himself, as he does every day, to my knowledge, to compassion and effort and understanding. And in talking tonight about the issue of changing the rules, I ask this nation to consider that we have on offer the evidence bill, comes up tomorrow. In changing the rules to bring justice and certainty to our country, we say to the nation, you cannot have a conviction. You cannot have an acquittal. You cannot have a trial unless you have evidence. There is no more fundamental an aspect to the criminal justice system than evidence. And far too often, the case law demonstrates, the stories tell, people know in their hearts that witnesses don't turn up for trial because the trial took 20 years. The witness got afraid. They were intimidated. You suffered abuse, rape, violence. And then you have to suffer again for 20 years waiting for a trial. And though we have improved that system, and though it is working by far better than it ever was before, and check the Chief Justice's report this year and you'll see what I'm saying for fact, though that may be true, the fact is that the witness protection is a critical aspect of safety for people. So we've gone to the Parliament, we've gone to the country, we went to the Senate, and we passed with the full independent support the evidence bill. And in that evidence bill, we are saying, if you want to identify a suspect, let us do it with confirmed rules so that the identification doesn't become an issue at trial and the man walks free or is convicted unfairly. We say in that evidence bill, use technology. Allow the evidence of a CCTV camera to speak as first-hand evidence so that you who saw the crime doesn't need to go and tap the accused on the shoulder and say, it's you. And your family is in the background. And thank you, Stuart. Stuart is mentioning tonight. We say in that bill, put in law a one-way mirror so that the accused doesn't see you when you are testing if that is the person. We say in that evidence bill, protect vulnerable witnesses. In a great world where somebody survives an attack, that is a vulnerable witness. A child is a vulnerable witness. A rape victim is a vulnerable witness. The family of these people are vulnerable witnesses. Somebody who has a mental diminished capacity is a vulnerable witness. And in this evidence bill, we say, protect vulnerable witnesses by special measures. In this bill, we say, allow the use of video to record statements so that there is no allegation of police brutality while a confession is being given. Record it. See the whole room so that somebody doesn't turn up in court and say they forced me into the statement. We use the video evidence so you can appear remotely and safely. And we say to this country in the evidence amendments as well, we want something called anonymous witness evidence. Used in North America, used in England, used in Australia, used in Europe, used everywhere in the world. Subject to a court saying it should happen. We say if a witness is at risk of death or seriously intimidated, that the witness can appear with a modulated screen and a modulated voice. The judge will see, the prosecutor and the defense will see, a special advocate will see, and everywhere else in the world, this is good and progressive and rule-changing. But in Trinidad and Tobago, we are fighting voices that say no to witness protection. And the issue that I ask the population to consider is, do you want those rules changed for the benefit? We then say that because we could not pass laws by ourselves, 22 votes, not special majority, we had to cut out the witness anonymity. because my colleague in the parliament, Saddam Hussein, put in a minority report last year and said the opposition will not support it. Tonight I'm not talking to an opposition. There's no need to quarrel. I'm joining the issues in this country and saying what we as leaders appointed by the people are prepared and have on offer. And we say to the population, we want to change the rules of bail and restrictions for bail, just like the placards in the protests and the voices that have risen. We say we join them in the issue of restricting bail in the court. And what we say on bail is that sexual offenses, which are grievous and which are associated with other crimes, kidnapping, assault, robbery, you should get no bail for that for 120 days. One strike with aggravation and you're out. The other voice in the dance is the leader of the opposition. Our opponents are the ones who we require support from to pass law. And our opponents say, by their actions and words, that they will not support bail restrictions. They did not support Bail Amendment Bill number 2, which said to Trinidad and Tobago, one strike of a weapon of mass destruction, a machine gun in your hand, a grenade in your hand, and no bail. They said no to that. And right now in the courts of Trinidad and Tobago, Anand Ramlogan and Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyal are fighting a case right now to ask that the restriction in law which currently prevents you from getting bail for a charge for murder, they want that struck out, struck down, and they want damages paid to everybody who has been denied bail because they're on a charge for murder. There are 1,270 people on charge for murder right now in the jails. 260 at the magistrates' court, 870 at the High Court. Judge me by my actions must apply. How can you say you have empathy on changing the rules on bail, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, when you are supporting and your senators and your past attorney general are fighting the laws to restrict bail for murder? Where is your shame, Mr. Ramlogan, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, Miss Lakshmidiyal? When Mr. Ramlogan stood in the parliament 2010, 2011, 2013, 2014, 2015 and upheld the law on bail restriction for murder. The issues. There's an issue in this country about PH taxi drivers. True? Everybody's child is afraid. People are worried. The vulnerable, the visually impaired were in the papers today. The signs and placards and the vigils say, protect our women. They ask for regulation of the PH taxi industry. We say that we have already begun that work. And since 2016, when we passed the laws to amend the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, and we introduced demerit point systems, and we registered every number plate, and we digitized all of the licensing material, and now you get your ticket in the mail. And now in Trinidad and Tobago, the evidence is that we've had the lowest number of traffic deaths in 65 years. We say that we will step forward and regulate the PH industry because we've done the work to do it. So that before you get into a car that is a PH car, it goes on part-time hire. You scan it with a mobile app and you get in the car and you see the name of the driver, the owner of the car. It passed roadworthiness. There are no criminal charges. But Senator Saddam Hussein today in the Newsday is quoted as saying that our introduction of new number plates with radio frequency identification, in other words then, there's a little device in your number plate which the government will put on for you, the law for which we passed already, that will allow you when you pass a point to be click, click, Joel Martinez just passed, click, click, Faris Al-Rawi just passed, if law enforcement checks. Saddam Hussein, the UNC voice, says no to that. That is an invasion of your privacy. There's no privacy, Senator Hussein, on the public road. The issue here tonight and in the country, what do we support? Do we support cameras everywhere, like Minister Young is building out? Do we support RF tag IDs so that number plates are changed, so that John Brown can't go by a sign on the outside of licensing office and buy a number plate for $200 and change a P plate to a H plate and kidnap a child and kill her? Or do we support what the government has done and is doing? Do we support what the government says on sexual offenses? Where we say to the nation, as I went to the parliament with the approval of my prime minister and colleagues to say, if you're a sex offender, go automatically on a public list. Right now, the placards are calling for that. I want to remind, we went to parliament with that. The message said to me is, you are going too fast, too soon. Stop. So I ask you tonight, do we return to the recommendation that if you're a sex offender, it should be public? Do we return to the submission that if you're a sex offender, it should be on your passport with a stamp? Do we support the approval of pepper spray as a device for safety that the National Security Council, I am pleased to report, has approved? And I can tell you I've drafted a law already because of the direction of the Honorable Prime Minister after the Minister of National Security did the prudent thing to bring policy approved by experts as to what should be done. You see, because it's a double-edged sword. In the wrong hands, it can be used against you, but we deserve a fighting chance. So, what is the issue? What is the issue? Do we change the rules? I've watched the leader of the opposition in response to me, raising all sorts of things. I just say to Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, come and speak on the law. We adjourned the debate so that we could hear from you. Dr. Rowley says to me all the time, Faris Al-Rawi, we don't make law for ourselves. We are a democracy, and we must listen to voices. And the opposition has a voice. 19 seats are occupied in the parliament. People in this country support the opposition, and some of them are crying out for the same issues with placards right now. And I say to Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, stand up and speak to the law. Come and contribute on what you think the law should be. Do you support bail restriction or not? Will you tell your Senator Lakshmi it's inappropriate to represent a striking out of the act because you approve it? You see, lawyers have a job to do, but you have a choice as to what brief you accept. You have a choice. And therefore, there is a question of morality, by example. And I say to Trinidad and Tobago that we have to change the rules. What do you stand up for? Protests are not to be taken lightly. There are voices to be listened to. There are hearts to be listened to. There's a beautiful lady named Toni Vincent. Her sister, also known as Smurfette, was murdered 13 years ago, never been found. She was on Facebook Live, pouring her heart out in disgust, directed to me, because she was shown a fake video produced by a page called the Kick Out the PNM, the UNC. And when I spoke to that lady, she told me, Faris, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was fake. I said to her, Toni, you have nothing to be sorry for. My mother is a strong woman. My wife is a strong woman. My daughters are strong women. Ayanna Webster Roy is a strong woman. They would have buffed me the same way if I had really said that. But imagine that an opposition has to take to creating a lie for their salvation. So to Toni Vincent, you have nothing to apologize for. You are the victim. Thank you for even saying that you feel regret about it. It's not necessary. You were abused. Ladies and gentlemen, as I come to a close, I'd just like to join my brother and colleague, and permit me a moment to say this of Stuart Young. It's not easy to be the subject of editorial after editorial and allegation after allegation, and to stand and take licks. You see, we signed up for the job, we don't mind the licks. I come for this work. Sign me up. But I would like to say to the nation, I bear witness and testimony that Stuart Young is one of the hardest working people I know. It's true. It's true he's a natural born fighter and he could get a little aggressive at times. It's true. But you know what? I'd rather have him fighting on my team for Trinidad and Tobago than anybody else. And thank you, Stuart Young, for your passion. And thank you, Prime Minister, for putting up with us. Because we ain't easy. Because we discuss issues. And we are guided by the sensibilities of our Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley. And this is no political platitude. This is the fact. So Trinidad and Tobago, you ready to change the rules? We only have 22 votes. Advocacy from the public is what is required. We in the PNM are a force to be reckoned with. And I ask the People's National Movement to stand in solidarity with the issues. We are at war with no one in this country. We are on the same side as the voices that are crying for justice. You gave us the opportunity to pursue the mandate that we have. We have 54 months left in the saddle, and all of us prepared to work our hearts out. I end by saying, Trinidad and Tobago, we don't feel for you in the government, we feel with you. We feel with you. Stand up and be counted. Raise your voices, your pens, your fingers on the keyboard, your forwards, your WhatsApps. Stand up for justice. Be issue-oriented. To our political opposition, you're not my enemy. You're the opposition. There's a role and a function for the opposition to carry out. I had the privilege of serving in opposition, and I enjoyed it. And I think we did our fair part, tutored by Penny Beckles, tutored by Dr. Keith Rowley. To the opposition, let's get the job done. That's all I have to say. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.